Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today I have my update for my Pan Those Eyeshadows project. I absolutely love this project and updating it for you all, so I hope you are as excited as I am. So these are the 5 palettes that I had in for this past update, and I am going to go through each of the shades, talk about how much I use them, if they are staying in or rolling out. And just as a refresher, my rules to roll shadows out are pretty simple. I can either hit pan on a shade, have it in the project for 2 or more months, or use it 10 times. So pretty laid back project, but this just helps me cycle through the shades within my collection. So I'm going to talk about these shades in the order that I had them rolled in. So first up is my I Heart Revolution Tangled palette, and I had the shade Tears. So Tears is this blue shimmer up at the top, and this past month I used it only once for a total of 3 uses within this project. This was just kind of a shade I forgot about, and if I'm being honest, blue is not a color I'm reaching for, especially these brighter blues on a daily basis, so it wasn't really a shade I was reaching for, and as nice and beautiful as it is, I just didn't get a ton of use on it. But it has been in for 2 months, so I will be rolling it out. I did really enjoy having this in the project though. I was happy to reach for this palette. It's not one I reach for a ton, so super nice to at least get a few uses on this palette and on that shade in particular. Like I said, it is a really nice, beautiful shade, just not a color I'm reaching for a ton. My next palette up is my Pacifica Purple Nudes palette, and I had the shade Pegasus. So Pegasus is this purple matte shade in the corner, and I used this one 2 times this past month for a total of 4 uses in this project. This is another shade I absolutely love. I think it is so nice. It performs really nicely, looks beautiful on the eyes. I just didn't reach for it a ton, but honestly, I'm okay with the usage that I did get on this shade. I was able to reach into this palette and use quite a few of the shades, so it was really nice to kind of spread the love within this palette and focus in a little bit on this shade. You can't see too much usage. There's maybe a few little brush marks in there, but overall not a ton of use. But I think I mentioned this in my last update or the one before. I just got this palette at the beginning of this year, so it's still fairly new within my collection, so I was happy to test it out a few more times, and I know it is one that I will continue to use in the future. My next shadow comes from my ColourPop It's a Princess Thing palette, and I had the shade Chip. So Chip is this matte cream shade up in the corner. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this one with this gold packaging, but there is a very nice dip in this shade. I have only had this in for 1 month, but I did reach for it 12 times this past month. I was really trying to get closer to pan, but if I'm being completely honest, I don't think I'm going to be there yet, and I have been going back and forth a lot on what I want to do with this shade because I did hit my 10 use goal, so I think I'm going to be rolling this one out now that I have used it 10 times, just because I know this is a shade that I will continue to reach for on my own and just naturally, and honestly, I don't really want to force myself to pan this one just for a project, so I did get 12 good uses on this shadow, and I am very happy with that, and I know that I'm going to be continuing to reach for this outside of this project, so I feel pretty comfortable rolling it out. This is such an easy shade to work on, and this is my favorite palette in my collection, so it was truly a joy to have this in this project this past month, but I don't want to force myself to use it a ton more just to hit pan, so I am going to be rolling this one out. Then next we have my Nomad Safari palette, and I had the shade Nile Crocodiles. So that is this pretty little green shimmer over here. I think this is my favorite, or at least one of my favorite shades within this palette, so I was super happy when it rolled in. I have only reached for it 2 times this past month, but it has only been in for 1 month, so it will be staying in, and I'm very excited. This was a shade that I kind of forgot was in the project, and when I was creating looks, I wasn't necessarily reaching for greens a lot this past month, so it just didn't get a ton of use from me, but I am excited it will be staying in. It is a beautiful shade, and the looks I create with it are some of my favorites. I love them, so definitely not one I have an issue using, but it's just one that I kind of have to remember to reach for. And our final shade comes from my ABH Subculture palette, and I had the shade Roxy. So Roxy is this matte shade over here, and I have had this one in for 1 month as well. And I used this one 4 times this past month, and I'm really quite happy with that usage. It is not very often I get close to 5 or more uses, so 4 felt like a really good number for this shade, especially for a more colorful shade, I'll say. It's not like a cream shade or a brown deepening shade that are easy to reach for on a daily basis. So 4 uses I was really happy with. I really do love this shade, and it will be staying in since it was only in for 1 month. So really excited to get hopefully a couple more uses on the shade and within this palette. So I have one more palette to talk about before we roll in some new shades. So if you remember from my last update, I started a little extra project in combination with my Pan Those eyeshadows, and I call it like my expand the pan sort of project. So this is where I roll in a shade that has pan on it from my collection, and my goal is to use that shade 5 times. So that shade came from my Profusion Mixed Metals Peach palette and was the shade Polite. So I did end up reaching for this one the 5 times to meet my goal. It is this shade right up here. I don't know if I will continue updating this project within this video. It's something I'm going to probably continue on my own, but I don't know if it's as interesting as my Pan Those eyeshadows project, so let me know what you guys think, and if you want to see this part of the video or not, completely fine either way for me. It's just a project I know I want to continue to do for myself. So let me know what you guys think, but I did reach for this one the 5 times. Mostly used it in my inner corner or as a brow bone shade, so there's not going to be a ton of difference within this pan, but really happy I was able to get a few more uses out of it and use this shade after hitting pan on it. Alright, so I have 3 new shades to roll in for this next update. So if I get a palette, or if I get a shade that already has pan on it or has already been in this project, I will re-roll. And I will also most likely re-roll if I get a shade from a palette that is currently in or just rolled out. So our first shadow is going to be 1089. So that actually comes from my newest palette, which is my NYX Flamingo Frost palette, and it is shade number 2. 322 comes from my I Heart Revolution Princess and the Frog palette, and it is the shade Frog. So 1092 is also from the Flamingo Frost palette, so I am going to re-roll this one. And 940 comes from my Kai Love Rococo palette, and it is the shade Madam. So I'm going to go grab all three of those and be right back. Alright, so here are the three new palettes, and I will run through each of the shades we got. So the first one that rolled in is my NYX Flamingo Frost palette. I am so happy this one rolled in. Like I said, this is my newest palette, so this will give me a good opportunity to test it out some more. And the shade I rolled in was the second shade here. So very excited about this. I used this one in my first impressions video, and I really did enjoy it, so this will give me a good opportunity to reach for that shade more and reach for this palette as a whole. I do also want to say I am filming this video quite early, so the time you're going to be seeing this palette might not be my newest palette within my collection, but at the time I'm filming it, it is. So if there's that confusion, that is why. I kind of got into the rotation of filming these early in the month, so that is why it is maybe not the newest palette when you are seeing this, but as of right now it is, and I'm very excited to test it out some more. My next palette is my I Heart Revolution Princess and the Frog palette, and I had the shade Frog from this one. So Frog is this kind of mid-tone, brighter green shimmer shade. This is not the shade I would have chosen for myself from this palette, but I am happy to be focusing in on this palette. It's one that I have been wanting to reach for more lately, so I think this will give me a good opportunity to do so, but it's probably not going to be more than a couple uses a month just with what the color is. But this might pair nicely with the Nile Crocodile shade. I will definitely have to do a look using both of those. So really happy this palette is rolling in, and we'll see how much use I can get on this shade. And our final shade rolling in comes from my Rococo palette from Kai Love, formerly Muse Beauty. I don't think they are around anymore, but I still really love this palette. And I had the shade Madame. So that is this kind of greeny blue matte shade at the bottom. For a moment, I was thinking it was one of the orange shades, which I was super excited about, but this one is good too. Again, another kind of more colorful shade. We are just really rotating through the colors within this project, which I don't completely mind, but it just typically means I'm not going to get as many uses on them as I would a more neutral shade, just because as much as I love reaching for colorful shades, neutrals are definitely my go-to, especially for everyday looks. So we'll again see how much use I can get on this shade, but I'm really happy it's rolling in, and I'm definitely happy to be reaching for this palette more. So those are the 5 shades that are going to be in for this next update. I will insert a picture of the swatches. We definitely are having some more colorful shades within this project, which is quite exciting, but like I said, is going to be a little trickier for me to use on a daily basis, but I'm up for the challenge. I'm excited about all of the palettes that are rolling in, and the individual shades are definitely going to be fun to reach for. So let me know what you guys think of this project, what you thought of this video. Give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future uploads. And with all of that said, I will see you in my next video. Bye!